everybody! So today we're going to be going through a couple of arm circuits that I like to do. I'm going to be using dumbbells, but I do also have some bands with me so that if you don't have access to dumbbells, I can show you how to do the same exercises with the bands. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so for the first exercise, I've got two 15-pound dumbbells here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do some rotating curls. So we're going to start with our hands facing forward as opposed to facing like this. We're going to have them facing in a hammer style way. But as we come up, we're going to rotate to the hand horizontally and bring it up. And something you also want to make sure that you're doing while you're curling is engaging your core. You don't want to be using your back to lift up the weight. If that's what you're having to do, then you should definitely move down a dumbbell size. Also, you want to make sure that you're squeezing that bicep when you're pulling up the weight, really trying to make that mental muscle connection. And make sure, like I said, that we're not using the back, we're not letting that elbow come forward. These elbows are glued to our hips, and we're just going to rotate up and down, rotate up and down, rotate up and down. And we're going to do this for 16 reps. So like I said, if you have bands, all you're going to need to do is put your door stopper into the door, feed your band through, and put your handles on. Then what we're going to do, keep that core tight, elbows to those hips, arms sideways, and we're just going to rotate and curl, rotate and curl. And like I said, we're going to be doing that for 16 reps. So for this next exercise, I grabbed a lighter dumbbell. I grabbed a 5-pound dumbbell. When I first started doing arm exercises, I definitely did not use a 5-pound dumbbell. I was using a 3 or a 2.5. But for this one, we're going to do a basic arm lift. We are going to alternate hand holds halfway through. So we'll do 5 reps with one, 5 reps with the other. The first hand hold is going to be your palm facing your thigh. Make sure your core is tight and engaged, and we're just going to lift. And make sure that we're really focusing on that top trap muscle while we're pulling it up. And you want to make sure as well that if the core is tight that we're not having to lean to lift that over. If that's the case and that dumbbell is too heavy, then you should go for something a bit lighter. So like I said, the first hand hold will be palm facing the thigh. We'll do 5 of those. And then we're going to alternate hand holds. Turn the palm upward, and we're going to lift 5 more this way, keeping that core tight. 5 reps, really focusing on that trap muscle. Awesome. And then we're just going to alternate to the other side, still keeping that core tight. We're just going to do 5 of these, and then we'll do 5 alternating the hand hold. All right. So to do the same exercise with the bands, once again, we're going to use our door stopper and just connect one of these to one of the hand grips. We're going to stand perpendicular to the door, and once again, we're going to alternate those handhelds. So this is going to be the regular with the palm facing the thigh, and we're just going to lift, make sure we're keeping that core tight, and then you would alternate handholds and lift, make sure we're keeping that core tight, and then alternate. So the next exercise we're going to do is going to be a standing overhead press. There's a lot of debate on whether your knees should be locked during this exercise or slightly bent. If the knees are slightly bent, you are technically doing a push exercise as opposed to a strict overhead press. I would just say do whatever is most comfortable to you. Especially if you have some bad knees. I know some people locking their knees can be painful. If that's the case, do not lock them. It is totally okay to have a very slight bend in your knee. And so this is locked. This would be a slight bend. So we're not talking like you're sitting down, just very slightly bent, not locked. But if you are going to do it this way with your knees not locked, you need to make sure that you're really engaging that core so that we're not hurting our back in the process. All right. I'm going to do strict form, but what we're going to do is we're going to start with these weights horizontally in front of us, and we're just going to rotate out and up, back down, together. And that's 1. And we're going to do this for 12 reps. Engaging that core. And when you're doing this press, you should really be focusing on bringing those shoulders up and together. Focus on those back muscles as we're pressing through, and that's really going to help build that mental muscle connection. Now, to do that same overhead press with the bands, you can either put a short seat in front of the bands and do it from a seated position. I don't have a seat that would make it the correct height, so I just go onto my knees, put my feet back up against the door, starting our arms here horizontally in front of us, and we're bringing them out and up. Make sure we're keeping that core nice and tight, and we're squeezing up, really focusing on those muscles. All right. The next exercise we're going to do is another basic arm lift, but this time forward instead of to the side. And we're also going to be doing those alternating hand holds. Anubis just making a slight cameo. So we're going to start with our palm facing the floor, and we're just going to lift forward, keeping that core tight, making sure once again that we're not having to use our back to pull that up. You want to make sure that you're using just that arm strength. So we're going to do 5 reps with the palm facing the floor. And then we're going to alternate the hand hold to the hammer hand hold and do 5 with the hammer hand hold. And then of course we'll alternate arms and do the same thing. Alternating hand holds after the 5th rep. Awesome. Now to do that exercise with the bands, once again we're just going to connect them both to one of the grips. We're going to step so that this band is actually in between your legs. Your back can be up against this as well. That'll kind of help you from using your back to pull up anyways. So we're going to have, once again, that palm facing the floor and just lift up. And we're going to do that for 5 reps. Then we're going to alternate that hand hold. We're just going to go up for 5 reps. And we'll switch hands. You know the drill. You don't need me to tell you. So this next exercise we'll be doing is going to be hammer curls. Very similar to the first curls that we did, except we're not going to be rotating at the wrists. So remember to focus on keeping that core nice and tight, not using your back to pull the weight forward, keeping those elbows glued to those hips, the palms facing towards our thighs, and then we're just going to squeeze up on that bicep. Really focus on squeezing that weight up. And then let me just show you from the side, so we're not using our back at all. Core is tight, and squeeze. And we're going to do this for 16 reps. So now to do the exercise with the bands, once again, we're just grabbing our 2 bands, 2 separate grips. We're going to make sure that that core is tight, elbows are locked to those hips, and then we're just going to squeeze up, not using our back to help squeeze up any of that weight, using just the biceps, really focusing on those muscles, and we'll do that for 16 reps. The next exercise we're going to be doing is going to be a fly. We're going to have the arm horizontal. We're not lifting it up over the shoulder. We're keeping it one nice straight line, core tight, and you're going to bring the dumbbell in front of you, right in front of your face, and then bring it back to our starting point. We are going to have alternating hand holds as well on this one. So like I said, we'll start with our palm facing forward, bringing this in front of us for 5 reps. After the 5 reps, we're going to turn facing our palm downward towards the floor. Once again, just keeping that shoulder nice and straight and perpendicular. Awesome. Now, especially when I first started, I had to use the lightest weight possible on this exercise. Especially if you haven't trained any of this as a woman. I never really trained like my chest muscles, and I just did not have enough strength to keep anything heavy up. So once again, don't hurt yourself. Make sure that if you have to go down a weight, not a big deal. You're still going to get those benefits of the exercise. So the way to do this exercise with the bands is to just move our door stopper from the bottom of the door to where shoulder height would be on the door jamb. And we're just going to grab onto this, and we're going to bring it in front of us with this palm to the floor handheld, keeping that core tight. Then we'll switch those handhelds after 5. And make sure we're just using those chest muscles to really focus and pull that arm in front of you. So the last exercise in this circuit is going to be the basic push-up. When I first started doing push-ups, I definitely was not doing them right. I definitely had, when I came down, my elbows were all the way out here. I looked like I was doing the chicken wing dance. I've learned now that that can actually cause injury if you're not doing the basic push-up correctly. So the way that you want to do it, you don't want, like I said, you don't want the elbows to be all the way out here. You also don't want the elbows to be too close to the rib cage. Both of these can cause pain in your elbows and your shoulders. So the sweet spot is going to be about a 45-degree angle. So as you're pushing down, the elbows are coming out slightly to the side, but not so much that your elbows are in line with your shoulder. So we're just going to keep them back a little bit, and that's how we're going to do the push-up. I like to do it for 12 reps because that's where I pretty much max out in my arms die. That's the goal. Really just do as many as you can, especially with push-ups. I know I had never trained to do them before, and I barely could do 8 the first couple times that I was doing push-ups. And also, don't feel like you need to be on your toes during the push-ups. The girls' push-ups with your legs crossed and knees on the ground, totally acceptable. I still do it that way. I have not yet built up to a whole body push-up. I am not ready. So don't rush yourself. This is a journey, and that's circuit number 1. So I like to do both circuits 2 times in total. So you go through all those first 7 exercises once, take a break, 1-minute break, 2-minute break, and then after that we're going through that whole circuit again. These exercises are meant to be done back to back, not necessarily superset. You can give yourself, a 10, 20-second break in between each exercise, but they are meant to go one after another with not a lot of fooling around in between. So let's get started on our second circuit. So the first circuit was a lot about moving our arms independently of each other. The second circuit is going to be more of moving things together. You wouldn't think it makes a difference, but it is a totally different exercise to move your arms together at the same time as separately. So the first exercise of this circuit is once again going to be curls. So we're just going to keep that core nice and tight, turn these hands upward, palms facing the ceiling, elbows glued to those hips, and we're going to move these dumbbells together as if they were one big barbell. And then we're just going to squeeze up and down, squeeze up and down. It's also very important that you're not stopping your curl too short. You want to make sure that you're elongating those arms out as you're pulling them up, making sure they're going almost all the way straight before you're bringing it back up. That can really dictate the length of your bicep over time and whether it's a short bicep or a longer bicep. So like I said, elbows to the hips and squeeze, keeping that core tight, not using our back, moving those arms together, and we're going to do that for 12 reps. So with our bands, we've got our door holder back down to the bottom of our door, and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to have that core nice and tight, elbows glued to the hips, not using our back, and we're just going to be focusing on squeezing those biceps up, making sure they're coming all the way down almost straight while we're curling. Awesome. So the next exercise is going to be pulling up to the chin. So you're going to face your palms towards you with these barbells together, and we're going to make sure we're squeezing that core as we pull up. Make sure we're using those arms, and our shoulders are we're almost doing a shrug as we pull those arms up, okay? Not using the back, shoulders nice and tight, and squeezing up, down. Moving our arms together, down. Your elbows are going to make like a little V as you're pulling them up. And we're going to do that for 10 reps. All right, and how to do that exercise with our bands. We've got our door stopper still at the bottom of the door. We're going to have the bands in between our legs here, and then we're just going to keep that back nice and straight, core tight, and we're going to pull up and down, and up and down, up and down. So for the next exercise, it's going to be sort of like a forearm curl. We're going to keep that core tight, stick those elbows to those hips, but our palms are going to be facing towards our thighs, and then we're going to lift up towards our chest and down. Once again, moving these together, not using our back, not letting these elbows come forward to help us lift or using any of that back strength. We've just got that core locked, and we're just pulling those forward. For the bands exercise, once again, bands are going to be in between our legs, back tight, elbows glued to those hips, hands facing downward, the palms to the floor towards our thighs, and then we're just going to pull up and pull up. We're going to do that for 10 reps. So for this next exercise, I've switched back down to my smaller 5-pound weights, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be lifting another arm lift forward, except this time hands are going to be towards the ceiling. So this is really going to focus on our chest here as we pull up. So once again, we're going to have that core nice and tight, arms straight, and we're going to lift together forward to about horizontal. You shouldn't be lifting up above your shoulders. We just need to come horizontal here and back down, horizontal, back down, and make sure we're not, having to use that back muscle to pull them up. If you need to go super light, go super light. Listen to your body. It knows what's best for you. And we'll do those for 10 reps. So to do that same exercise with the bands, once again, we're going to have the bands in between our legs, arms straight, and we're just going to lift together, up, and straight down, up, straight down. We're going to do that for 10 reps. Back up to my larger weights for this one. What we're going to be doing is called a pushback. So the way that we're going to do it is the legs are going to be slightly bent, almost in a seated position. We're going to rotate our palms so that they're facing behind us. And what we're going to do is just push back with the weights, standing up slightly as you come up. This is going to be sort of a press. And then you want to make sure that you're not leaning forward. This angle of the hips should be fairly locked, and you just want to lift, 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 lift. And the arms will come slightly behind you as you lift. I'll show you here. They come slightly back, almost like they're going to touch together, and we'll do that for 10 reps. Now to do that same exercise with the bands, we've got our bands in the door stopper. We're going to be facing the door. We're going to get into that almost seated position with our palms facing backwards behind us. And we're just going to pull and pull and pull, making sure we're keeping that angle of our hips. That core is tight. We're not using our back, and we got that for 10 reps. Next thing we're going to do is another back exercise. So we're going to be, once again, this time angled, slightly forward, knees bent, and we're going to bring the 2 dumbbells right in front of us like this. Then next what we're going to do is squeeze those shoulder blades together as we pull these weights up. So just focus on almost touching your shoulder blades when you pull it up. Making sure that you're not leaning back. It's very, very important in this exercise to make sure you're focusing on keeping your core strong so that you don't hurt your back. So like I said, nice and tight, leaned over. And we're just gonna squeeze those shoulder blades together as we lift up. And we'll do that for 10 reps. Unfortunately for that exercise, I haven't found a way that it works with the bands. So this is gonna be one of the few that I completely skip. So unless you have dumbbells, it's really hard to do that exercise with some bands. All right, and for the last exercise of the circuit, we're gonna be doing some lawnmower pullbacks. So basically all you need is something that you can rest your knee on. So if I'm working the right arm first, we're gonna put the left knee on our stool here, and you're just gonna lean forward with our hand on the stool. We're gonna bring our arm out in front of us, keeping that core tight, making sure we're not using our shoulder to pull this weight up. We're just gonna bring the elbow horizontal, drop down, and focus on squeezing that back shoulder blade up while you're pulling. And you wanna make sure that you're not letting that elbow come out to the side, you're not letting it just come back. It needs to be straight up, straight down. Squeezing that shoulder blade, your hand should be right up against your chest. That's where your hand should end to ensure proper placement. And we'll do that for 10 reps. To do the other side, just gonna come around holding the dumbbell in our left hand, put our right hand here on the bench, put our hand down, and then arms straight, straight up and down. Squeezing those shoulder blades back, really activating those muscles. And we do that 10 reps each. So the way to do this exercise with the bands, the way that I found is the most comfortable. We're gonna have our band connected to our door stopper. We're gonna have both ends connected to one handhold. Get down on our knees here. Make sure this core is nice and tight. The base of your knee should be about shoulder distance apart, holding this tightly, and then you're just going to pull back with that elbow straight back. Once again, that hand coming about right to your chest, really squeezing that shoulder blade back. Do it with the other arm, core nice and tight, and we're just gonna squeeze straight back, squeeze. Making sure you're not turning your torso to help pull. Everything should be static except this arm here, and we're just squeezing back for 10 reps. And that is the end of circuit number 2. So basically, I'll do circuit 1 all the way through twice, and then I'll do circuit 2 all the way through twice, and then I'll go cry about how bad my arms hurt. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope this helps. Bye.